Destroy the enemy's supplies at all costs. Demolish their ordnance and crush the enemy's supplies.
What the heck was that? What's up guys? Today I'm bringing you an update video on the new update that was just added into Call of Duty today. As you can see from the beginning clip there, I found something that nobody's really talking about so far, and I was pretty excited about it once I figured out what it was. Personally, I'm a big fan of the 9mm, and so this new inspec for the Epic variant that you had to grind so long for, prestiging your Resistance Division all the way to the Max Division prestige. I mean, the original inspec was the same as the base gun, which is a bit disappointing considering we have so many cool weapon inspects with certain variants like Epic and Heroic variants that are in the game, and so I was pretty excited when I saw this. What I would basically classify this as is a quality of life improvement to the game, kind of like moving the headquarters selection to the bottom row instead of it being the first thing that popped up when they initially patched the headquarters, and the way that it started when the game first released, and it was all bugged and people had a hard time finding matchmaking apparently. Speaking of another quality of life improvement in this update, they added a new on-off switch for the Resistance Jammer ability, which a whole lot of people were asking for it to be removed altogether, because most people in the community, myself included, have felt like that Jammer only notifies enemies around you that you're nearby, and it ends up giving your position away, making the close quarters combat of the tactical knife kind of useless, because then people's guard are up immediately when their radar starts getting jammed and it's hard to sneak up on them. Now the downside to them adding this on-off switch to the Jammer ability is that they also tied this with the Sixth Sense ability, and I understand the argument that if you had the ability to use Sixth Sense without the Jammer perk, it might be too overpowered, because you would get the notification that someone was nearby in one of the 4 directions on your minimap, if most of you have seen it and you know what I'm talking about, without the disadvantage of them being notified that the Jammer was being used. My only argument for this would be that there is no other division that one of your tiered perk unlocks technically counts as a disadvantage to you in any way, shape, or form. Everything in the Mountain Division is an advantage. Your silent movement, silent footsteps, you stay off the radar. Same with Airborne. You don't throw the suppressor on and then all of a sudden you can climb over obstacles, and then when you take the suppressor off you can't climb over obstacles faster. This is the only instance where they're tying multiple abilities together with their on-off switch. It would be, another example I guess would be if the Expeditionary Division only got to resupply its tacticals and lethals when you had your shotgun loaded with the incendiary shells. Moving on to the next topic though, they added a whole lot of new gear, calling cards, emblems into this Resistance event with the update as well, and my initial reaction when I was playing with my friend Black Mamba, who I play almost all the time with, was honestly irritation and disappointment, because I've played the game a lot. I actually had completed every one of the collections, and so I was a bit disappointed that at this point, when we've only got 2 weeks left, all of a sudden they throw 4 more collections with 8 pieces to each collection in there, and so I've got to try to grind, get more depot credits, crafting parts, whatever you want to call them, to build these items to get the unlock at the end of it. At the end of the day, I'm not too concerned about trying to get the uniforms that they just added, or even the revolver that's in these collections, and I'll get to that later. But my main concern was at the end of this event, inevitably, like they did with the Winter Siege event, they're going to put out bribes that you can purchase, and if you have almost everything in the collections, buying those bribes will guarantee you, like in my case, I really want the Go 2. I don't have it yet. You can see in this gameplay I've got the Defiance, which is cool, but I would really like the Heroic. And so when they add all of this stuff with only 2 weeks left, I mean, you're going to have to really grind and play this game a lot. Another thing that I want to touch on really quickly is the new bundle that they put out today has the 10 regular Resistance drops and then an epic bribe, and an epic uniform bribe. And I don't know about anybody else, but I've never really thought to myself in the time that I was playing this game, damn, I desperately really need this epic uniform. I don't know what I'm going to do without this epic uniform. In my opinion, this is just another example of Activision or Sledgehammer, whoever it is making these decisions, just being money-grubbing jerks and finding any excuse to just try to get more money out of the consumers without really returning anything to us for our loyalty or our playtime in their game. Like, at this point, I have almost 11 days played, I'm almost at Prestige Master, and one of my most used weapons is the bar before they nerfed it into the ground, and I still have yet to get a variant for the bar. And I just feel like there's too much stuff that's in the game already that's hard to get, and they're not really making it easy for any of us who are loyal and continue to play their game day after day to get the things that we're wanting to get. And I feel like returning the loyalty to the people who have been loyal to this game after the abysmal launch, all of the bugs, like the patch that came out is already 1.10, so we've had 10 updates to a game that's only 3 months old. There are some games that get through their first year without needing 10 updates, but this game was so riddled with bugs and problems that it's been updated 10 times already, and I just don't understand it. And I do understand that a lot of these are small, maybe petty things, and that really it's, like I said before, quality of life changes, but I mean, little things like this, as you can see, I was very excited, and I'm backed out and I go to the firing range and check out these inspects again, just to make sure it wasn't like a Battlefield super rare inspect that happens 1 in every million times that this weapon gets reloaded. And so I was very excited to see that no, this is actually just a new inspect for this weapon. I guess my only question would be is if all of the variants and stuff in this game are purely cosmetic, why aren't they putting out more craftable variants for the base game weapons? I wish there was a little more. And I feel like it's easy content that they could be pumping out, like make a collection that I could craft to get a bar variant, make a collection for any of the guns in the game that don't have a collection yet, like the Thompson or the P08. People love those weapons, and I have some friends that use those weapons almost exclusively, whether it's their secondary or their primary. The next thing I want to touch on is the 2 new revolvers that were added into the game, and honestly they leave quite a bit to be desired in my opinion. I don't feel like there's really any advantage to running either one of these, and I'll get into the specifics now. First, real quickly to touch on the Rice revolver, I don't have it, I don't have any gameplay of it, but it is a higher fire rate, lower damage revolver than the other option. It is a 3 to 5 shot kill, and I don't really see any reason to use it. It has a slightly slower fire rate than the P08, and it's a revolver, so it can only hold 6 rounds. There's no extended mag attachment that you can throw on it, and so there's really no option to run this unless you just really want to give it a try and throw on Duelist and dual wield it, but it really seems useless in my opinion. The second one is the Enfield number 2 revolver. It is a slower firing, higher damage revolver, but it is still slightly weaker than the 1911, which is not good in my opinion, because this is just another instance of where this is a revolver, it can only hold 6 rounds, there's no extended mag for it, and so if it doesn't even offer higher damage than the 1911, on top of that, it has a slightly slower fire rate than the 1911, so there's literally no plus side to running this over the 1911 if you are looking for a powerful 2-shot handgun. Now this one is a little more user friendly if you do have it with Duelist. It's basically like a mini shotgun up close. It is kind of fun, as you can see in the gameplay here. I do fairly well messing around with it in a war game mode, just trying to hold down one side of it. Now real quickly, I'm going to give you some real life stats. So the Enfield number 2 revolver fired a 38 by 200 round and did have the option of double action, which it also does in this game, meaning basically that you can just pull the trigger, you don't have to manually pull the hammer back. Whereas the Rice revolver fires a 10.6 by 25 millimeter cartridge, which is comparable to a 44 mag cartridge from my understanding. And this gun is a single action only, meaning to fire this gun that, from what I can tell, fires a larger round than the Enfield does. You have to manually pull the hammer back each time before you pull the trigger, and so I don't know if it was a mistake or if it was just a personal design choice, but I feel like these two revolvers should be switched. the infield shoots a smaller bullet and has the option of just pulling the trigger. You don't have to do any other motion, just pull the trigger to fire. And the Rice revolver fires a bigger bullet and has to have the hammer manually cocked. I feel like you should just switch the two of them and they would make more sense, especially since the Rice revolver has a slow reload. You have to eject each empty casing manually and then load a new casing in. And so I feel like it would just make more sense maybe if you slow down the reload on the Rice revolver so you don't look like a cyborg reloading it at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and give it slightly more damage than the 1911. There has to be some positive to using this gun over the 1911 that you can throw extended mags on. This just doesn't seem like these are very viable weapons to me at this point. I am still glad that they're adding more content more often than other Call of Duty games, but at the same time, the honeymoon phase is going to wear off, and I'm not going to be interested in running either of these. I'm going to go back to using whatever firearm is best very quickly. And I feel like this inevitably just kind of stems from the fact that I understand that game developers want to be creative and they want to be innovative, but at the same time there's certain things in Call of Duty that we like to remain the same. Like in every Call of Duty that we've ever had revolvers, they've essentially been two-shot kills, and I don't know why Sledgehammer can't just do that. Same with the basic training and divisions thing. I don't know why when they were talking so much about going back to Call of Duty's roots, they thought they had to reinvent the wheel instead of just going back to the original three-tiered perk system. If you want to get rid of the pick 10 system, I understand, but we really just wanted a return to what we knew and enjoyed about Call of Duty instead of just someone else trying to do something new and take another risk, and it just turns out to be a bit of a disappointment to most people because it's not, I guess, received the way that they expected it to be. And their whole purpose behind it was try to avoid making crutch perks a thing in Call of Duty. Inevitably, all I think this has really done has made a bigger problem with the crutch perk system in this game, because there are less choices, and if you want to stay off the radar, you have to run mountain, or you have to run flanker, or if you do want to go on really long streaks, you have to either run infantry so you have a loaded weapon to win more gunfights and start with more ammo, or you have to run forage so that you do pick up more ammo. The last thing that I'm going to touch on is the featured playlist update that we got this week, and I'm very disappointed in it, to be honest. Last week we got Demolition, and Demolition is a game mode that I really have enjoyed in past Call of Duties, and it made me think about all the fun that I had in Black Ops 2 and playing hardcore Demolition, or playing Demolition in the Nuketown 24/7 playlist, and just going for 100 kill games and getting score streaks. And it's a fun game mode that I feel like the majority of the COD World War II community enjoyed getting to play. Now obviously it's not gone for good. It is in that playlist, Bomb something, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's basically Demolition and Search and Destroy in a playlist together, and so you can vote for Demolition and continue to play Demolition and just leave if you don't want to play Search. But my main problem is with making the featured game mode a party game mode, and then tying all of your weekly contracts and the daily contracts that give you a Resistance Care package to this party game mode. And it's not that I inherently just hate gun game, I feel like it's just too gimmicky, and I don't really enjoy playing it for more than a few games at a time, and making our big weekly contracts where you have to get a bunch of kills or win a bunch of games or play a bunch of games in this gimmicky party mode, I feel like isn't really what the community wants. This kind of goes back to Sledgehammer, I feel like, being out of touch with their community in this game, because something that the community's been asking for since the release of this game is an objective-based team mode where you can get a decent amount of score for your kills, unlike Domination in its current state right now where you get 50 points per kill and you have to go on like a 15 or 20 streak to earn the high-tiered score streaks. People want to be able to play an objective game mode and be able to earn score streaks, whether that's in Domination 100 or in the Demolition mode that came out last week, where personally I got my first V2 rocket in a Demolition lobby and I was very excited. I can't even begin to express how awesome that was for me to get my first nuke in any Call of Duty in that game. Circling back around the gun game though, like I said, it's not that I hate the mode. As you can see in this gameplay that I have right here, I end up winning this game, and so it's not that it's a bad mode, I just feel like it's too gimmicky and that it's not enjoyable for sustained periods of time, and so making long contracts and challenges And in my honest opinion, I feel like this is a bit of a way for them to mask the fact that the numbers are kind of down on Call of Duty again, and just another year. Last year obviously was a lot worse, and that's why Infinity Ward completely tried to restructure the leaderboards and wouldn't let you see what number you were. They'd tell you what percent you were. But I think that Sledgehammer's concern is if they add too many of these game modes that we're used to having as a staple in Call of Duty, that then it'll kind of start to limit when you go to search for a game and you can queue up and find a match almost immediately. It might spread the player base out too much, but in my opinion, something like Demolition or Domination 100 is exactly what the community's been asking for since day one, and I just don't understand where the disconnect is and why they can't meet the community halfway and give us a mode that we've been wanting to play and enjoy for those of us that still play this game and enjoy playing this game day in and all criticisms aside, I do fall into that group. I do still enjoy opening this up and playing a couple hours or a few hours of this game every single day, and so I just want to see this game get better, and I want to continue to enjoy to play this game until the next game comes out. And so that's all I've really got today, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you later.